Tonight, deadly weather. Over 100 millimeters of rain reported across the country, killing 11 people. More on the way. We'll have a full report tonight. Getting out of debt. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says the country will finally acquire foreign reserves of its own. No deal. Minister Mahinda Amaraveera says the collapse of talks between the joint opposition and the SLFP owes to the impossible demands. Everybody counts. Sri Lanka aims to end the spread of HIV/AIDS by 2025. And in international headlines, divine intervention. Pope Francis addresses the Rohingya crisis, says the presence of God today is also called Rohingya. Good evening to all of you joining us across Sri Lanka and around the world. I'm Mahesh Johnny. Let's begin tonight's coverage with the latest update on the inclement weather condition. The death toll due to the prevailing inclement weather rose to 11 today, with 52 injured and 5 missing. 61,125 people of 18,752 families have been affected. 481 houses have been fully damaged, while 15,780 others sustained partial damage. Let's get the very latest on the situation and cross over to Katharina Chang, who's standing by at the other Derana Severe Weather Centre.
Thank you, Mahesh. Owing to the prevailing inclement weather brought on by Cyclone Oke, heavy rainfall was experienced in several districts during the course of the day. The Colombo district saw rainfall throughout the day, with uprooted trees obstructing traffic in some places. First at 9 took the streets today to find out more on the situation here in Colombo. 40 houses in Bandaranayakapura in Rajgiriya were affected by strong winds due to the inclement weather. First at 9 visited the area to ascertain the current situation. Area residents charged that the compensation they received is not enough to rebuild their homes.
රුපියල් 20000 කොන රුපියල් 1500ක් කොහෙද දෙනවලු ග්‍රාමසේක මානෝන ඇවිල්ලා. එමේ 2000 මුකුත් කරගන්න බෑනේ මේ අවස්ථාවේ හැටියට මිනිසුන්ට සීට් 10ක් හරි එක පැත්තකට හරි ඉන්න කියලා දෙනවා නම් ඒක ලොකු දෙයක්.
We are here at Bandaranayakapura in Rajgiriya in one of the 40 houses which have been affected owing to the inclement weather. Now, as you saw, due to the heavy, strong winds that have been experienced in the island in the past 24 hours, roofs have been blown off in one of the houses which are here. Now, even when we enter this room, we can see that the inclement weather really has taken a toll for the residents living in this vicinity, and they are still awaiting assistance from the government in order to provide assistance in order to rebuild our lives following this calamity. Meanwhile, in Negombo, in the Gampha district, fishermen refrain from going out to sea owing to rough waters. The All-Ireland General Fisheries Federation urges authorities to expedite search operations for missing fishermen.
We emphasize to the government that they must provide adequate compensation for families of fishermen who died, as well as for damaged boats. The Navy and the Coast Guard is engaged in rescuing operations. We have received reports of several boats destroyed, both from harbours as well as out in the sea. Some fishermen have been killed, while 11 are missing. The highest priority is searching for them. 1 million rupees in compensation will be provided if a state-insured fisherman dies. No premium will be charged.
In the Kalutara district, minor flooding and vehicle damage occurred in Haltota, Delgoda and New Chattalwatta. A special development committee meeting was convened today over the situation in the Kalutara district.
Following an instant decision by the government, we decided to distribute 25.7 million rupees among divisional secretariats. Based on the decision to provide 10,000 rupees in installments, as there will be a holiday until Monday, we coordinated with the Bank of Ceylon and the People's Bank to open their branches in Kalutara district, especially tomorrow, so that people can cash the checks given to them.
Deputy Director of the Disaster Management Centre, Pradeep Kodippili, said that waters of the River Ging and Nilvala are on the rise, urging residents downstream to be vigilant and ready for evacuation if necessary.
Still, people need to be very vigilant with the prevailing situation. Rainfall is there, scattered all over the country. Landslide warning still being extended, especially in Badula district and Ratnapura district. Red alerts been provided by the NBRO over Bandaraville and Haputale, Haldumulla and Kolonna in Ratnapura district. Landslide warning issued over the possibility of landslide over Kandy, Nuwarelia, Kegol, Matale, Ratnapura, Kalutara Gol, Matara and Badula area. So all people who are living in highly risky areas need to be very vigilant. If any signs of the landslide being observed, they need to move for the safer location.
The Disaster Management Centre added that relief missions have commenced and that required funds are dispersed to district secretaries. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's office notified that all division secretariats will remain open over the weekend to disperse the 10,000 rupee allowance to the affected.
Due to the sudden windy situation, around 1,700,000 consumer connections broke down. Around 200,000 have been restored. As per today data, 552,472 breakdowns have occurred so far. Complaints can be made to the Ceylon Electricity Board on 1987, the Lanka Electricity Company on 1910 and the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy on 1901. In the Kalutara district, where several outages occurred, complaints can be made to a special number of 0114418 This is applicable for Ratmalana as well. Those in the southern province can contact 0714-238-623.
The cyclonic storm also affected the day-to-day lives of people in several regions across the country, including southern, central, Uva, Sabragamua and western provinces. Kantadola in the district of Gaur recorded the highest rainfall within the last 24 hours with 150.2 millimeters. Department reports that although the water gauge of the river Ging at Tavalama is at normal level, the water gauge in Baddegama is at a level of minor floods. With the river overflowing, the Baddegama Gaur main road is submerged at several locations. Sri Lanka Army took measures to repair the roads that were blocked by trees which had fallen in Akurana. Two houses were damaged by an earth slip in Yakkalamulla in Gaul. In the meantime, a special development meeting was held to discuss the disaster situation prevailing in the Gaul district. A development committee meeting was held under the patronage of Minister of Home Affairs Vajira Abewardhana. In the meantime, according to the data of the Irrigation Department, the water levels of the river Nilvala has risen to a flood situation in Pandugama. Irrigation Department urges people living in low-lying areas of Akurassa, Aturaliya, Malimbada, Mathara and Tihagoda to be vigilant. A person was killed in an earth slip in Palalpite in Mathara and his wife, who sustained injuries, is currently being treated at the Mathara General Hospital. In the meantime, the Dankatia Dam along the Tangol-Veerakatia Road is overflowing. A 200-acre banana plantation in Ridigama Ambalantoto also felt the effects of adverse weather. In the meantime, the Irrigation Department says that minor floods are reported in several places in the Ratnapura district with the overflowing of Kalu River in Millakanda area. Meanwhile, the bund of the lake, Tenagallanda, has breached due to incessant rains. A severe fog is experienced in the central hills accompanied by heavy rains. In the meantime, a person died in the lava after coming into contact with a fallen power cable system. We at First at 9 has been in constant touch with the Regional Meteorological Centre in Mumbai, India. Senior scientists of the centre, Ajay Kumar, stated that Cyclone Oke is moving away from Sri Lanka towards the Lakshadweep Islands.
This is very likely to intensify further during next 24 hours. It is very likely to continue to move northwestwards across Lakshadweep Islands during next 24 hours and then move northeastwards during the subsequent 48 hours.
Cyclone Oke is gradually moving away from Sri Lanka and is currently 650 kilometers to the west of the island, making its way to the Arabian Sea. The impact of the cyclonic storm is expected to gradually reduce, but it does not mean the wet weather will go away. We will still experience heavy rainfall of over 100 millimeters, accompanied by strong gusts of wind in the western, southern, Sabaragamu and central provinces. That is it from the forecast first. At the moment, I will be back with the forecast for the next 24 hours in a bit. It is back to the studio.
Thanks a lot, Chang. Let's move on to other local stories we have for you tonight. President Maithripala Sirisena says that Labour officers must prioritise workers' welfare over the interest of corporations. He made this remark addressing an event held in Colombo today. The remarks comes in the backdrop of the demonstration by employees of the Magampura port in Hambantota, which continued for a second day today against their sacking by the Magampura Port Management Corporation.
The handover of appointments to 191 newly recruited Labour officers of the Labour Department was held at the BMICH under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena. Addressing the gathering, Minister of Labour and Trade Union Relations WDJ Senaviratne focused on the recent sacking of 468 employees of the Magampura fort.
Sometimes we see that not much attention is paid to labour laws. The company to which the Magampura port is leased is sacking 468 employees of the port. We intervened and said they cannot do that and asked them to pay compensation when sacking the employees. They agreed to pay compensation, but the amount was gravely insufficient. We tried to resolve the issue, but we couldn't, and we passed it to a negotiator. When the negotiator called both parties for discussions recently, a letter was sent sacking the employees. It is a grave wrongdoing no matter what company does it. I recently saw how Labour officers in the Labour Department went on strike. When problem solvers become problems themselves, who is left to resolve issues? Are you too going to be like them? Some trade unions have told me that international labour organisation summits are attended by the same people and some of them go shopping instead of attending discussions. I don't know if those claims are true or false. You know you should love the workers the most. However, do you know who loves you the most as long as you're in the post? Company owners. Will you fall into the pockets of the masters or the workers' hearts?
An order was issued on Wednesday by the Magampura Port Management Corporation to its workers not to report for work from yesterday, the 30th of November, if they serve without written permission of the company's director. All employees, however, remain in the main administration building of the port since Wednesday, charging that the compensation provided for them is insufficient. They say they will remain until the responsibilities and assets they hold are taken over by the Port Authority. The Satyagraha by the employees' parents demanding that the employees be recruited to the Port Authority continued for the 11th day. Meanwhile, yesterday, Minister of Labour and Trade Union Relations WDJ Senaviratne ordered the immediate nullification of the circular which barred employees from work. Accordingly, the Assistant Labour Commissioner for Hambantota today visited the workers engaged in the demonstration and intervened to supply them food until their responsibilities are legally taken over by the Port Authority.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that new foreign reserve saving deposit will be set up at the central bank with the funds acquired through the Hambantota port deal. The Premier made the remark at a function held in Ampara today. As I stated in Parliament yesterday, a sum of 4,000 billion rupees was obtained without anyone's approval. The Monetary Board of the Central Bank hadn't approved it. We must settle the debt too on top of the foreign debt that we have already to pay. For an economy as this, what should be done without establishing a national government? We have entered a joint venture with China Merchant Company and the Ports Authority to settle that debt. For their stake in this venture, China is going to give $1.1 billion starting this month after we ink the agreement on the 9th. With that, we will create a savings fund in the central bank. For the first time in 10 years, we will have foreign reserves in our name. Once we sell off unwanted property and half-built hotels, we will have $1.5 billion in foreign exchange as our own money. We have asked the Singaporean firm Subana Jurong to create the development plan for Trincomalee. The oil tanks could be used as storages by Sri Lanka and India. If needed, a refinery too could be built. Minister of Petroleum Resources Development Arjuna Ranatunga says a decision will be soon taken on a suitable investor to build and operate a refinery in order to solve Sri Lanka's issues surrounding fuel management. Responding to questions raised by media following his visit to the Temple of Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy, the minister said discussions have already begun with 3 prospective investors.
The Petroleum Corporation has become a business. This is because we haven't even manufactured an oil refinery for a long time. And when someone tries to do that, there is a faction that opposes. That is when we experience acts of sabotage. However, I will not take any decision that is disadvantage to the country. No matter what others say, I will not allow substandard fuel enter the country. I regret the recent incidents surrounding fuel. Yet, we are solving the issue now. Some tanks and refineries are being built, and within 3 months, we will be able to finalize most of our decisions. We can't create issues regarding an agreement entered into between 2 nations, but following discussions, they agreed to make amendments to it. I think we can expect to keep some tanks for ourselves, hand over others to them, and maintain the rest as a corporation. We are holding talks with 3 investors as Sri Lanka requires to refine 110,000 barrels of oil, but our output is only 32,000 barrels at present. If we have a new refinery, we will be able to generate the required amount. We need around $2 to $3 billion for this purpose. We're trying to create a mechanism where an investor comes, refines oil, and we purchase. The refinery will be handed over to them for several years, and we will be able to make large profits from which we could build our own refinery. I will submit a cabinet paper once discussions are finalized in order to decide on the investor.
Minister of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Development Mahinda Amaravira today revealed that unreasonable demands of the joint opposition was the reason behind the unsuccessful talks with regards to contesting the election together with the SLFP. He made the assertion speaking to media in Colombo today. We held discussions and we had hopes of contesting together, but we did not get the necessary support from the other faction. You may have seen that the majority of the members nominated for discussions comprised of those who didn't favour a coming together. Most of their conditions were impossible. No, there's no logic in that. Some of those who made such comments are the ones who joined the UNP to form a single government. The symbol might be the hand or the beetle leaf. It will be decided tomorrow. It is we who decide whether to stay or leave. Their wish was fulfilled because there is a deal. The expectation of the United National Party at this juncture is to divide the SLFP. So who brought it to fruition? Our former President Mahinda Rajapaksa insists that if the SLFP cannot leave the national government, then the joint opposition will not be able to join them. The former president made the remark during a ceremony held in Beruwala today.
A special ceremony was organised to celebrate the 20-year political life of UPFA parliamentarian Piyal Nishantha, which was attended by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa in Beruwala today.
They have done nothing but take revenge for the past 3 years. They say that there were issues pertaining to bond in the past and that they will investigate them. I'm looking forward to see the report on the bond, which is to be issued on the 8th, and what they are going to do with it. If I was the president, I'll never let something like this happen to the Prime Minister, as it is not appropriate for a Premier to take the stand like this. If I was the president, I'll never let something like this happen to the Prime Minister, as it is not appropriate for a Premier to take the stand. I would have asked him to resign and then give evidence, since such a scenario would give rise to doubt among international investors. So many were taken into custody after forming an institute called the FCID. I recently visited the war heroes who fought in the war. They were only asked to give one name. SLFP is not just a symbol or the headquarter. We can unite under one flag, but that cannot be done as long as they are with the UNP. Give up your posts and join us. If they say that they can't leave to the tune of some, what we have to say is that we can't join together to the tune of some. Well, today is World AIDS Day. Health does not play by the rules of wealth, caste or creed. It is common for all, and when illness strikes, it affects all across the board, entitling every human being the right to good health. That is the very reason the United Nations titled this year's World AIDS Day theme My Health, My Right, and World Health Organization dubbed theirs Everybody Counts. Though understated, Sri Lanka too is plagued by the HIV virus, with the country setting an ambitious expectation to end the epidemic in the island by the year 2025. We, First at 9, wanted to take a look at this health crisis on World AIDS Day.
According to the United Nations, 36.7 million people across the world are living with HIV, and 1.8 million people became newly infected with the deadly virus by 2016. 1 million died from AIDS-related illnesses last year. Sri Lanka, along with over 190 countries, have pledged to the UN's sustainable goal of ending the AIDS epidemic by 2030. Sri Lanka, with 4,700 detected HIV and AIDS patients, is however considered a low-prevalence country and aims to end the epidemic by 2025, which also happens to be the theme for this year's AIDS Day.
We want to reduce this new infection by 90%. Before that, we have to do the target given by the UNAIDS 90-90-90. That means from estimations, we have to identify 90% of HIV positive people. From this 90, we have to give antiretroviral treatment for these people. If they are getting the antiretroviral treatment, their viral suppression should be undetectable 90%.
There are 31 full-time STD clinics and 23 branch STD clinics across all districts. Of these STD clinics, 21 have the capacity to provide antiretroviral treatment services to those who need it. The National STD and AIDS Control Programme hopes to expand these facilities to all the base hospitals across Sri Lanka within the next 5 years. Although there are necessary, up-to-date health facilities within the country, stigmatization and discrimination of the epidemic prevent those who are living with HIV to either get tested or get treatment. Because of people's unwillingness to do HIV tests, the health sector has to resort to other means of collecting data with the support of the UN and WHO. Dr. Lianage says that the health sector has observed a rise in the number of men infected by the virus, with increasing number of infections witnessed in the male homosexual community over the past 2 years.
The main thing is that they are going to the sex workers. Sometimes they are practicing male homosexual behavior. When we analyze that 189 people, 52% of these 189 got HIV through the male homosexual activities. Because that the using condom is less than 55%. But when we consider sex workers, their condom using is more than 93%. MSM, usually they are not confined to the one partner because it is illegal in Sri Lanka, it is criminalized in Sri Lanka.
With 52% of the cases being reported, Colombo district records the highest number of HIV patients in the country. In explaining the high percentage, the health ministry says that Colombo is consistent with more risk behavior and also has HIV key populations. In this backdrop, the Health Ministry launched efforts in 2013 to control mother-to-child transmission of HIV. Presently, they are able to give 95% of coverage.
2016, we detect around 20 mothers, pregnant mothers with positive HIV. We treat them and no child born with the HIV. This year also around 20 mothers we detected and some already delivered that they didn't get HIV. Within end of this year, we are going for the validation. That means we reach it, should be certified by the WHO. We are going to apply in 2018.
According to the statistics of STD and AIDS Control Program, 1,800 people don't even know that they are living with the deadly virus. Lack of sex education has also been a major issue among discrimination of those who are living with HIV. Dr. Lianage explains the dangers of resistance in accepting key populations due to cultural and social stigma.
We want to normalize it. HIV positive people, some are thinking is a different kind of disease, one kind of communicable disease. It can happen anyone. We are not accept these people. They are not coming to the surface of the society. Then this HIV will be spread without knowing. Actually, we have to reduce stigma towards these key population also, not only the HIV positive people. Then they will come to the surface. They will come and get testing, and even they positive, they will come and get the treatment.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
A woman was shot dead in Rukmale in Kottava by 3 persons last night. The incident is suspected to be a result of a conflict between 2 underworld groups. The 42-year-old victim, mother of 2, had lived a secret life after her release from 3-month imprisonment for aiding a murder. 6 suspects were arrested in Moragollagama in Siambalawa over the poaching of tusker Dalaputtua. The police recovered a piece of ivory, 2 ivory pendants, a talisman and a tusk pearl. They were produced before the Mahava Magistrates Court today and were remanded until the 12th of December. 32 Sri Lankans who were arrested yesterday while seeking illegal passage by sea to New Zealand in a multi-day vessel seeking employment were remanded until the 4th. They were produced before the Chilaw Magistrates Court today.
Welcome back everyone on to Business News. Sri Lanka's inflation in the 12 month to November this year was 7.6% according to official data, with consumer prices rising 12% in the month, the 3rd straight month the index has risen. The Colombo Consumer Price Index grew from 120.8 points to 122.2 points in the month of December. In October, headline inflation accelerated to a record of 7.8% from a year earlier, up from the previous month's 7.1%. But core inflation was at 5.8% in October, easing from the previous months of 6%. A central bank governor speaking at an event recently promised to move into a flexible inflation targeting regime.
Similarly, on monetary policy, the central bank is introducing a flexible inflation targeting regime, and we are putting in place legal and accountability frameworks to institutionalize that flexible inflation targeting regime, which will be much more data-driven, forward-looking and proactive than monetary policy in the past. We're also setting in place clear parameters for managing our exchange rate. We don't plan to spend out scarce reserves to defend an exchange rate which is indefensible.
Well, the world's leading oil exporting nations have agreed to extend production curbs for 9 more months in a bid to boost oil prices. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and non-members, led by Russia, agreed the output limits, which has been set to expire next March, would continue until the end of 2018.
The new deal means 1.8 million barrels a day will continue to be cut from the market in an effort to reduce the oversupply and push up prices.
So it's going to be basically a 1-year agreement with tweaking of the language to strengthen the commitment to conformity by each and every one of the participating countries. We as a grouping will be agile, will be on our toes, and we will react and respond depending on how events may unfold.
The limits were first agreed a year ago and helped to push up the price of crude oil by about 30%. Oil prices fell slightly after the latest deal, which had been expected. Brent crude was down 0.3% at $62.35 a barrel.
On to international news now. Pope Francis has met a group of Rohingya Muslim refugees in Bangladesh and referred to them by name for the first time on his Asian visit. In his previous visit to Myanmar, which does not regard the Rohingya as an ethnic group, the head of the Roman Catholic Church avoided the term Rohingya. Yesterday, Pope Francis called for a decisive measure to resolve the political crisis causing Rohingya refugees from neighbouring Myanmar to flee to Bangladesh.
Pope Francis landed in Bangladesh yesterday following a diplomatically sensitive trip to neighbouring Myanmar, where he made no direct references to the plight of Rohingya refugees who have fled to Bangladesh in their hundreds of thousands. During his visit to Bangladesh, the Pope initially avoided the term, instead speaking of refugees from Rakhine state, calling on countries to offer immediate material assistance to Bangladesh to tackle the refugee crisis. Later on, however, Pope Francis met with a group of Rohingya refugees at an interfaith meeting in the capital Dhaka and referred to them by name for the first time on his Asian visit today. The Pope told a group of 16 refugees, quote, "The presence of God today is also called Rohingya," unquote.
On to sports now. Sri Lanka will battle against India tomorrow in the third and final test, which will get underway at the Firoz Shah Kotla grounds in New Delhi. Jeffrey Van der Sar has been called into the squad to replace veteran spinner Rangana Herath, who was ruled out of the crucial third test due to a back injury. The hosts are currently leading the series 1-0.
Big shout for LBW, fingers up. Herath strike left. Day 2.
4 teams took to their positions in the battleground, kicking off the 5th week of Rugby League 2017. In an encounter between Police Sports Club and CHNFC at the Police Park today, the match ended with a draw despite Police Sports Club leading in the first half by 1 point. Police Sports Club scored 21 points with 2 tries, 1 conversion and 3 penalties, while CHNFC also scored 21 with 2 tries, 1 conversion and 3 penalties. Meanwhile, in another match, Sri Lanka Navy did not allow Sri Lanka Air Force to score a single point as Navy defeated Air Force 10-0 at Valisara. Navy collected their points by scoring 1 try, 1 conversion and 1 penalty. Well, West Indies Test debutant Sunil Ambrose carved his name in history as he fell for a golden duck in his debut against New Zealand in Wellington. Ambrose becomes the very first batsman to be dismissed facing the first ball on debut.
It was the debut to remember for the West Indies batsman Sunil Ambrose as he made history with a first ball hit wicket in his debut test match against New Zealand in Wellington.
Oh, trouble, trouble, trouble. I heard a bad noise. I heard a very, very bad noise if I'm a batsman.
The 24-year-old was capped for the first test against New Zealand by West Indies icon Joel Garner. Coming into bat after Shai Hope's wicket, Ambrose had a first ball that he will never forget.
Disappointment for Ambrose. Looked around and saw Ambrose just thinks he's got off the mark. He knew. Looked around and saw the bails lying on the ground.
Well, Catherine Anshang is at the Derana Weather Centre with your forecast first evening edition.
Welcome back for our forecast first evening edition. Now, if we take a look at the map, we can expect temperatures to vary between a mild 20 to 28 degrees Celsius over the course of the day. Now, if we take a look at the region, we can see the deep depression, which was in full swing last evening, gradually reduce over the course of the day, lessening the incidence of thunder showers in the island. However, this does not mean the wet weather will recede. We can expect some heavy showers in the northern part of the island, particularly in Trincomalee, Jaffna, Batticaloa, as well as Mena areas. Now, moving downwards, the wet weather is also expected to continue there as well, particularly in Colombo, Galle, Mathura and in the central hills of the Kandy district. Let's now take a quick look at your city by city forecast.
Well, as you know, on Fridays, we want to end on a high note. So time now for the good story of the week. This story comes to us from Maithripala. For 5 years, Veerakapitipula National School has been providing free extra classes for its GCE ordinary level to its 160 students. The principal of the school, DJ S. Jayasinghe, also teaches the students apart from handling administrative duties. He says that it is his personal mission as a teacher to mold exemplary citizens for the country. The secret to success is ensuring that students stick to a strict study schedule of 15 hours and holding daily meetings with the school's teachers to ensure quality education for its students. A selfless activity that ensures a bright future. And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny. First at 9 will return tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to join us then. When you have the time, make sure you connect with us on Facebook at facebook.com/firstatnine or on Twitter at twitter.com/firstatnine. Have a nice weekend. Good night.